and then we'll get rolling. So the idea for today is, there's a Slido that was sent out, a link where you can put in questions anonymously, and the questions were, the point is to target them for behaviors and any behavior management topics or situations or questions that anyone has. Since we had our workshop last time, I think workshop went really well. The point is to keep this conversation going of how can we best serve our youth across different ages. When the situations come up, there's so many, again, so much experience and so many resources in our church. The more we can rely on each other, the better we fill in for each other, and the more we can support each other. So that's the idea for these meetings is, bring up questions, bring up situations, we can discuss them among everyone that's on the team, but also just if anyone else has any ideas as well. Having these conversations helps, brings up ideas and just helps us, fill in again for each other and just make the service as best as possible. So, if you don't have the link to the Slido, I can, if someone, Glory, would you mind sharing it in the chat right now? And then we're gonna go through some of the questions there, and then we can open up for any questions that anyone here has as well. So first question. The first question is, how do I implement movement breaks in my class? So we'll try to say the question. Again, the link should have all the questions there. You can also upvote questions or like questions that you find interesting, you want answered, and then we'll open it up. So I think this one, I can hand it off to Glory because I think she does this really well.
Okay, hello. So for movement breaks, and whoever has anything else to add also can add, but it depends on what grade you're in. For the younger ones, you want to do them more often, and I can give you guys some examples of some of the things that we do. We have different videos that it's just like follow this, do this. But we also sometimes do you have like different games that can get them running around the room. So like you have 5 seconds to find something that's red. You have 5 seconds or change the time to find Saint Mary picture. So those are some of the things because they're it's just one direction for them to follow. But the older they get, they can add more of the activities that they would want, or you can give them multiple directions at the same time. So I wrote a list. Give me 1 second. I'm looking at it. Okay, so I had you can give them, yeah, for like first and second, you can give them 2 to 3 step directions. So like give them, I want you to do 10 jumping jacks and then wall sits for 10 seconds, or different like chair push-ups. Like it can be different like quick exercises that they can do it as like a competition, but also something to get their body moving. And I actually just thought of this. I remember that I did this for one of my kids before. We had, I had it on my iPad, but you guys can have it on the TV of like the wheel. Um, you can like write the specific things that they would want to do, like wall push-ups, Simon Says game, different like animal walks. So like you tell them, oh, walk like an elephant, and they have to stomp, stuff like that. You put them in the wheel, and every movement breaks. So it'd be like every 10, 7, 10 minutes, maybe 15. You would like spin the wheel, and you would see how many you can do. You can do 2 or 3 of whatever is on the wheel. So it can also be something fun for them, like when it's a transition between activities. So if you want to do a after intro, okay, let's spin the wheel and see what we can do for a break, and then we'll start the hymns. And it can be a good transition if like you need to go from one room to the next, or just between the activities to get them moving. Um, so you kind of change the activities to what age you think is appropriate for them. So like the older can do like more like intense like movement breaks. So like 20 seconds high knees, like balance relay. So like you would talk to the kids. I think this would also be a good time to have them be involved to like the things that they would want to do, so they can also feel like they're in control instead of being told what to do for like an hour and a half. And it's a little harder when it goes to the high schoolers, but it can still be something that they can do as a competition, but also, of course, making sure that they're being safe. So those are some of the things I was thinking of. If you have any questions or anything to add, you can let me know.
Yes, thanks so much, Glory. Yeah, I think the biggest thing with movement breaks is, yeah, like what Glory said, they're perfect for transitions. I know our schedule in Sunday school is so packed, and there's so many different things and elements that we have to cover, that transitioning between those different things can get really overwhelming for the youth. I think that's across the board from our angels all the way to, up to high schoolers. So having a movement break in there to help like their mind reset. So it's not just information and then transition to even more information with something else. Having a reset, having something of a break for them to do something else can be really nice. And I think for high schoolers, obviously, like this can be actual physical movement. Like I've done with our middle schoolers before. Like, hey, like just get up. I know we just did 20 minutes of hymns. I know it's a lot. We're about to do lesson now. How about let's get up? Let's just do 10 jumping jacks real quick. Or if you're dealing with boys, all right, let's see how many push-ups you can do right now. Like let's all do like 5 push-ups all together, and then you go down one, like stuff like that. Again, incorporating movement so it's not just mental like the whole time can be really nice, and also a nice transition between different topics. Anyone else on the team or anyone want to offer any ideas or thoughts on movement breaks?
It's hard talking to a screen like with no faces there. So
Sure.
Um, so the thing about movement break too, as Glory said, like keep in mind for every year of their span, so they can only that's how much they can pay attention. So 5-year-old, their attention span is 5 minutes. And the other thing too about the movement break is you want to make sure the attention getter. So like once we're done with the movement break, like they're ready to start, so whether you say, all right, I need you guys ready in like 5, 4, and like some sort of countdown, that's always helpful, whether you have it on the screen or it's whatever you have established at the beginning of the year. That's the thing. So kind of going back to whatever you pretty much established at the beginning of the year, keep that going.
For sure, absolutely, yeah. Consistency is very very important. um okay, amazing. I think any other thoughts? If there's no other thoughts, we can go to the next question. All right, let's do it. Next question is how to stop far away interference and interactions among the kids during introduction. I think I'm maybe can add a little bit of context to what I'm assuming this question is asking. If that person is here, feel free to clarify. But maybe the idea is if someone is giving introduction or whatever else, and across the room there are two kids that are distracting each other, distracting the class. Like, how do you get involved with that? That's what I'm understanding from the question. Again, if the person asked the question is here and wants to clarify, please feel free to do so. But if not, um, let's see what are some thoughts and discussion we can get on that. So how can you stop interference or distraction that are far away among the kids during introduction? Let's take a stab at it.
I could try. So a couple of things. So room arrangement would be helpful. So if you feel that, hey, these two kiddos like need to move to a different space, do so. The other thing, making sure moving, some of the servants close by so that way they're actually not making more distraction and they're paying attention. They're probably like not mentally ready yet. So there's got to be a reason why that's happening. So I know we've talked more about, like the AVC, so like the antecedent, like what is happening before the event. So they're doing this for a cause. So really digging, so that's the thing, making sure like knowing why they're doing that is going to help out a lot. And again, like with all of these questions, I know because they were submitted anonymously, so it's hard to tell like, the age range that we're talking about, and like which class and everything. So we're just giving some broad answers here.
Yeah, maybe next time we'll have you guys also add like what grade you're in. Um, I think I saw Michael was gonna add something. Sorry, let me just add one thing. If um something that I started doing with my kids too is like if two people are talking and like Michael is like sitting on the side and not talking, I can also add when I have a minute like to talk, I can say, "Oh, I love how like Michael is showing like me quite I love how Michael is showing me quiet hands," or "I love that you're facing forward," or like, "Oh, thank you for doing this," giving attention to the behavior that we want from the kids. I think that also helps. But also, like Jackie was saying, like understanding why this behavior is happening. Sometimes it's like they're trying to avoid listening, just don't want to be there. Maybe making the introduction shorter or like trying to like start concluding if it's like if it's dragging because they're not really paying attention to it. So that's yeah.
Absolutely, yes. All amazing points for sure. And the only other aspect maybe that I was thinking of is, yeah, like Jackie was saying, being very intentional with seating arrangements, with how you're setting up the class. Like, is it rows? Is it they're sitting around the wall? Who's sitting next to who? I think all that stuff, the more we can be intentional with it, the more we set ourselves up for success. So again, it's all about like preparing for a situation to happen even before it happens. The more we can do that when the situation does come up, we know how to deal with it, we know how to address it. Obviously, making sure that there's communication among all the servants with what the expectation is for addressing these situations and making sure everyone's on the same page with that is super important. And I think maybe the one big thing to understand with this is this can't be done by the person that's given the intro, right? Or the hymns or the lesson or whatever it is. That's why I think, again, I really liked your point, Jackie, with your intentionality with where everyone is sitting, especially servants, is very key, because those are the ones that are supposed to be getting everyone on board and addressing these distractions. It can't be the person that's giving intro that's focused on giving the actual intro. That's why for me, I think one thing that's really important to focus on, like Jackie was saying, where you place servants, having servants as much as possible sing among the youth is huge. Is huge when it comes to that, because when they're among, they're sitting where the distraction is happening. They can address the distraction without creating even more distraction or without pausing the momentum of like the intro, the lesson, or whatever. It's because it's hard for the person that's standing up there to focus on whatever they want to teach, but also jumping around three, four different distractions that are happening. So I think definitely address with your servants, like put them like specifically where you want them, next to some of your kids that need a little bit more help and a little bit more support, and then giving them and supporting them, empowering them with what the expectation is that you want from them and how to achieve that. I think sometimes our servants get confused with like, what am I supposed to do when, like, if one of the kids starts speaking up or yelling? Like, I don't know how to address that. So having those conversations in our families can be really important with, if the situation comes up, how do we address it? And then setting ourselves up, preparing to be successful with applying the expectation and enforcing it. So I know I said a lot there, but I think maybe key away is just be intentional with where servants are sitting. For me, I don't like the whole thing of like, servants standing in the back and all, the youth sitting down. I don't love that, because you're taking away now your ability to interact and to intervene when need be. So I think sitting among our youth, being just like them, that's what Christ did. He sat among everyone else, and that's how he's able to like reach into people's hearts. So I think that's important, not just for behavior, especially for behavior, obviously, and addressing those distractions, but also just to be able to reach them. You have to be sitting with them, not like separate, standing in the back, looking over them, on top of them. So that's kind of just one other thing that I wanted to add. Any other thoughts about that? Again, it doesn't have to be just anyone on the team. If anyone else wants to chime in and say, a thought or idea you've tried and implemented that works for you, feel free to do so. All right, if there's no other thoughts, we can move on to the next question. Next question. How to stop kids, especially boys, showing off in front of girls during introduction? Ooh, that's a good one. That's a spicy one. All right, thoughts? I know our younger ones probably don't experience this as much. Will you be surprised? Um, so maybe someone from our older crew can chime in.
Well, I was gonna add something real quick. I'm assuming this is like middle school, high school. I feel like developmentally that's like normal. They're seeking attention and like reaction. So I would think instead of like shutting it down and be like stop being weird or like calling them out, we can direct the need for attention into like something else. So maybe you can give them like a leadership role. So like, oh, you help me with this verse today to help me like have it like help me help the others to get it memorized, or like, oh, help me find the video to play the song, like give them something else to redirect their attention. um that's what I would say. But if you guys, if like the people that are teaching the older ages can add something, that would also help.
Yeah, I think that's huge, Chloe, for sure. Yeah, going back to the ABCs, antecedent behavior. Like, so what happens before the behavior? What's the cause of the behavior? I think the biggest thing with this, and I think the question addressed this, is attention, right? And the fact that our youth want attention is not bad. Like, that's normal. But the point is, how do we teach them like, how to properly get attention, how to properly ask for attention? And like Gloria said, um, so providing them, with different things where they can get their attention in a healthy way, right? So one thing that we do in middle school that's really helped. Actually, George Malty, I know he was here, but he started something really cool for us on Bible study. Um, on Friday nights, what we do now is that knowing that the boys act out a lot for attention, especially the boys, you'd be surprised that the girls do sometimes too. We now do skits. So the point of the skits now is that they get an opportunity to have the spotlight on them and for everyone to laugh at their jokes and for everyone to engage with what they're saying, and they become the center of attention, but in a healthy way. So they're able to get that need for attention like fed, but also learn how to give attention to other people. And this is where you can address, um, like, hey, when it was your skit, I made sure everyone gives you attention, and that was good. I want everyone to listen to you and to listen to your jokes and the skit and all that stuff. Now make sure that you're giving that same respect to other people as well. So I think that's a big thing. Is the point is not that they're trying to get attention. The point is how do they get that attention in a healthy way. But I think even in our younger ages, this can be addressed. So maybe someone on our team from the younger ages can address that as well. Maybe Clara or Mary, if you guys want to take a stab at this.
I think for the younger ones, for kindergarten, when we have this issue come up, we've asked them to come up and be leaders. And for example, they were interrupting the hymns to, demonstrate that they already know it. So we said, okay, great, then you're going to help us teach the hymn. So they came up and they were guiding and practicing how to lead others. And so they had the attention that they wanted, but again, like you said, in a more positive way.
Amazing, amazing, love it. Clara, what have you seen of this?
For us, we're trying to implement it and like, oh, if you memorize the stuff at home and like you say it, then like you can get like Barre bucks or something. And then and then usually like when they come up in front of the class, they either say perfectly or like nos sonos. So then we like free learn it all together, if that makes sense. So it's not like I don't know if this makes sense or not, but it's not like they're like perfect in it. They're like, okay, yeah, you did really good, but let's like fix this all together and learn with everyone else. So
For sure, absolutely amazing. Yeah, I think those are all great things. Same biggest thing with that, yeah, is just understanding that the attention seeking is not bad. Just giving them avenues to be able to get that healthy. And I think eventually they start learning, hey, I want attention. I'm starving for attention. There are ways for me to get it. So I don't need to yell out or I don't need to like show off or anything like that to get the attention because I know that I'm gonna get it by doing these things that the servants ask me to do. So I think that's key with that. Okay. I think there's a couple new ones that were submitted today, so I think maybe we prioritize those. Um so we'll start with this. This is the second. I like this one. How do we handle physical aggression or inappropriate comments for first and second? What do we think?
sorry, I just have a clarification. Is this like physical aggression like towards peers or like the servants or like
Let's say both. How do we address it in either of those situations?
well, I think for us, it's sorry, Gloria, I totally cut you off. I think for us, we just like make it very clear. Like, if I see someone touching anyone, even if it's not like escalated to aggression yet, if it's just like joking touching or joking like pushing and stuff, we just like make that boundary of like hands to yourself very, very clear. And we have like the clip system where like once they do something, we have them like go up and move down their clip to like the orange. I don't know if you guys have that. We have a green, orange, yellow, orange, and red like postcards up in front of the class, and everyone has a clip with their name and they move it down. And the like last one is like they go talk to Abuna. And like the second before last one, like they don't get a treat or something. So yeah, we make that like very clear, that boundary. And there's like consequences if they don't listen multiple times.
I would say I agree that giving them the expectations of what you want them to do and the consequences definitely need to always follow through. So I would say for both the physical aggression and inappropriate comments, to not, first of all, to not have a big reaction, to like be like neutral and set the expectations of like hands are not for hitting, like safe hands, keep your hands to yourself. Um, Making sure to add that if you can block, of course, like block. Um, like see if they like if they're really like upset about something, obviously like regulating them, so like take a deep breath, let's do some wall pushes to regulate your body, or just like let's sit on the side and like talk, and or not even talk, just like have them calm down first before you see why it happened, because like how we've been saying that like ABC, what happened before that made that like why are they hitting, why are they screaming or yelling or saying whatever words. um so first like setting the expectations of we don't say that, or like let's use kind words, let's not say stuff like that, and then setting the expectations of okay, if we keep on doing this then this is gonna happen. And also seeing like why is this happening, are they like, is it because the person they're sitting next to, do we need to move the seats, or is it because we've been doing hips for 30 minutes and they're like زهقانين, so like I'm just gonna hit my friend next to me. So definitely like seeing why that behavior is happening, so we can we're able to see what we need to change to make sure it's good for everyone. And of course, check on other kid if like they're actually hurt or like they also need to talk, to check in with them. And definitely avoid like giving them a lecture of like, we don't do this, we don't do that. Like keep it short because you're in the middle of Sunday school, so you want to like address it, make sure they're both good, and see what you need to change. Real quick, yeah.
Well, I mean, like we're talking about like if a child hits another child, right? Or so I think definitely like when it comes to like someone hitting someone else, I think parents need to be notified, right? Like that child's parents need to be notified, and then also the other child's parents should be notified. Um, I think that's something like I have brought up. Like I just think it's important for them to be aware that it is escalating to that point where we're now I'm not talking about like a tap or a push. I'm talking about something more serious, right? Like I think at that point we need to address it seriously. Just because we are also responsible for the safety of everybody that's in Sunday school. So, um, like I said, I understand a tap, a push, a shove is different than like we're talking about like serious hitting. So you and the other servants would have to assess like what's the situation, but also like just if it is turning physical, I would definitely recommend removing the child from the room for a minute to calm down, like Lori was saying, to calm down.
Yes, all great points for sure. Absolutely, yeah. I think the biggest priority, like the top priority, is the safety of everyone involved. The physical safety is has to be ensured for servants and for the youth. So I think, yeah, like Mary said, like Gloria said, if it's escalating to a point to where you feel that again, it's not just physical, like not just pushing or tapping, whatever, where like there's actual physical risk of safety, then you have to separate the child, just for the safety of them and for the safety of the other youth, for the safety of the servants, everyone involved. And then the point of that, the separation is to just remove this from that situation and to help de-escalate. So I think that's the first thing that should be done, and then you can address whatever after. I think one nice thing like that everyone kind of touched on is setting those expectations, making sure that the expectations are clear. And this is beforehand, right? So I think there's two aspects. There's a before, the situation happens, and then if the situation happens, what do you actually do? So before any situation comes up, we should all have a plan of not just a plan, but addressing with our youth. These are expectations that we have from you. These are the things that we should be doing, and these are things that we should not be doing. And I think I would focus more on what we should do versus telling them other things not to do. Because then the more you bring attention to it, like Gloria said too, like try not to have a big reaction. The more you bring attention to the negative, behavior that they have, that feeds their attention seeking, so they're going to do that more. So focusing more on what you want them to do and addressing it that way is really important, and having those expectations set in a way that's clear, and having a plan with how you're going to implement those expectations, with consequences following through. So I love that elementary does that system with the pins, and every youth there knows, every elementary school child knows, if I do this or that, and it's cleared out, this is, the consequence for that behavior. And just applying that in a way, consistently every single time is really important too. And I think having those conversations with our youth is super important. Having them be involved in understanding what are these expectations and consequences. So it's not just us telling them, it's we figure it out together and we help them understand the expectations that we have from them, and then empowering them and leading them into following and fulfilling those expectations is super important. And then yeah, I think that's the big thing when a situation comes up. Any other thoughts about this one? I think this is definitely a big common one, especially among the younger ones. So first, separate, from the situation just to de-escalate and to make sure that everyone is safe, and then implement whatever system, like Jackie said, that you have from the beginning of the year, or whatever you've planned, prepped, and all the servants are on the same page with it. Implement those expectations and the consequences in a way that's clear, consistent, and fair. I had to say it once. Just so again, no child is caught by surprise for why they're getting a certain consequence. And then just try to take all the emotion out of it. Just be very systematic and very neutral about it. It's like, no, we communicated before. We told you this was the expectation. We need to make sure we don't do this. We did this. I respect your choice. This is the consequence for that choice that we've already told you before. So making sure that you're communicating that beforehand, so none of our youth feel that that they're surprised or that they're being blindsided by a consequence is really important. Just to make sure that we don't lose them, and then make sure that things are fair. Any other thoughts on this one? All right, let's go ahead and do one more. I think this one was also submitted today. There's one that was just submitted right now. I don't know if we should do that one or the one that was submitted. Let's see. Oh, okay. I think the one that just got submitted is nice. So let's do it. The question is, how do you suggest guiding fellow servants? Maybe they're being a little aggressive, dismissive, visibly annoyed. That's a good one. We'll wrap up with that. And I think we're gonna try to find some way of like sending out a poll of like if you guys are finding these meetings like helpful, or maybe you can put in the chat right now, maybe a thumbs up if you think we should do these meetings again. If you find them helpful, interesting, beneficial, or not. Again, like the whole point is support each other. But if you feel that we're all good and maybe we do them less often or more often, just feel free to share in the chat. The more we get feedback, the more we know what is needed in a service. But so we'll do that while we're sharing. For this final question, if you find these meetings beneficial and you want them to continue to happen, again on once every couple months, put a thumbs up in the chat. We see if there's enough thumbs up, then we can definitely do this again. But back to the question. The question again is, how do you suggest guiding fellow servants? Maybe they're being a little aggressive, dismissive, visibly annoyed. What do we think? Yeah, Keem, what do you think?
It's a tricky one. So
It is.
I mean, there's a lot to it, So are they aggressive toward the kiddos, I'm assuming, or like, kind of I would wanted to know more about this. But just basically, there's probably something going on. So maybe they just need to take a little break, like that certain day. Maybe there's just a lot of behaviors happening in the class that where they see, maybe other students are not noticing it. So then maybe they're just annoyed by that. So there's a lot to do with it. Like, it's kind of not super clear of like what is happening. Is this like a consistent thing that's happening every week? Um, yeah, this is a tough one.
It is, for sure. Yeah, and I think for me, I feel the biggest like thing with this one is communication. So again, like Jackie just said, I feel there's so much that can be at play for why this happens that the worst thing to do is just let it continue to happen. Right? I think communicating and finding out where we're misaligned as servants together, just being on the same page is super important. So like Jackie said, there's so many reasons why this could be happening. There could be a reason of they're just having a bad day. If this happens consistently, maybe there is again like difference of perspective or views on how to deal with the youth, right? Like someone might think physical play or maybe being a little bit more aggressive is okay. That's just their perspective. Maybe that's how they were raised, maybe that's how they were served, and so they find that to be the best way that they do it. Maybe it's not necessarily that they're doing anything like malicious or intentionally wrong or bad. They're just trying their best, right? So there's so much that can be at play. And I think the best thing to do, the most important thing, is to communicate. Right. So this is where we, again, you take the servant out of the situation if you feel, especially if it gets too much, is again remove the servant out of the situation for their protection, for the protection of the children, and then have that conversation of, hey, let's talk about like what's happening right now. I don't think what you're doing is the best for our youth. And again, always direct it back to the youth. Don't make anything personal. Don't direct any personal attacks at them. Because again, I think most of the time it's all of us are serving with good intentions and we're trying our best. It's just we're trying to find the best way of how to serve our youth alongside each other as well. So I think one thing that helps with this is, as a family, having expectations not just for the youth but for the servants as well. What are things that we are going to do with our youth? What are things that we're not going to do with our youth? Some families, they allow more of the physical play, and that's again not necessarily wrong, but then at that point you have to communicate and lay boundaries for what that looks like, when it's okay, when it's not okay, just so everyone is on the same page. So then when those boundaries are crossed, you have something to point at that everyone is in agreement upon, and say, hey, like, I think you crossed the boundary in this. Again, this has nothing to do with who you are as a person. I just feel that based off what we agreed upon as a family, this is not aligned with that. And so talking about it that way, I think is really beneficial and super helpful. And again, for all again, it's just an off day, and you communicate, you ask them, what's going on, and then you're able to address it. Then if it's an off day, then you can again be there to support. I think the whole idea is to be on the same page all together to support each other. So if someone is having a bad day, then they're just not there like, no, everyone ignores them and they continue to have a bad day. No, like, let's get them out, let's support them, and give them a break, and be all on the same page with what is it that we're doing. That was a lot, but I think there's a lot more that can be said with that.
At the same time too, like, you don't want to attack that person while they're already showing all of these different, emotions, or like going through that roller coaster. They're already ticked off about something. So like, bringing it from like a loving and caring perspective or idea, it's definitely going to make a difference, and especially like, maybe have them tell you about like, oh, like, what do you think about the date? Is it going well? Like, is there something that we need to change? So, just try to bring some questions where they can maybe open up and share about like what is truly, bothering them.
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah. De-escalation and communication, I think, are the two biggest thing with that one. So we're all on the same page, and we can all support each other and in supporting our youth, for sure. Anyone else want to chime in on that one? I think, yeah, there's so much that can be said with this one. But... I see there was point on Turner asked, aggressive, dismissive, annoying to everyone or to certain kid/servant. Yeah, that's a good question or a good point. I think with any of it though, I'd say you probably address it the same, but obviously if it's more specific situation, if it's a specific child that they're being more aggressive toward, I think that can be a conversation that can be had as well, where you point it out in a way, again, that, like Jackie said, doesn't attack them, but to where you learn how to do it. Like, hey, I've noticed that, for me, and again, I serve our middle schoolers. Some of our middle schoolers know really well how to get under my skin, right? so they and they so at some moments, Heidi's here. Heidi does a really good job, and when she starts to see that I am starting to get a little bit more frustrated, she comes and she addresses it with me. It's like, I think, again, that communication, all being on the same page and knowing that we're all there to support each other, and addressing and being that was like, hey, I've noticed that, you're usually a little bit more stern or strict or aggressive, or however you want to phrase it, in a way that, again, doesn't come off as attacking with this specific youth, right? Why is that? Right. And then having that conversation and finding solutions, and maybe just like, yeah, some of the youth know really well how to get under certain servants' skins. So, and then be intentional in that of, okay, maybe we don't have you be completely focused on that person. Like if you're splitting up in groups at that point, I'm not gonna put a servant and a youth that don't really get as like along as well together, putting them in the same group. Again, they're just setting them up to fail. And the point is for the goal is all the servants know how to deal with all the youth perfectly, but we don't live in a perfect world. So there are situations where there are better fits between servants and youth, and so knowing where some of those weaknesses are and some of the more support and intentionality that we can have can be really nice as well. I think the biggest thing is for that is communication. Communicate and address all those. Anything else anyone want to add on that one to finish us off?
I don't know if this is like being repetitive, but similar to what Michael was saying, even if the kids are, I feel like some of the older boys do it on purpose to like just they're bored and want to like annoy you. But even like the younger ones, when there's just like upset or crying and or like whining or want something specific, and we have like expectations of like if we're gonna cry, like we're not gonna be able to get what we want and stuff like that. And like I know the last few weeks for me, for our class, we have like new kids or kids that are visiting, so it's like more chaotic and it was like loud and it gets overstimulating. So asking for a break is okay. Like obviously making sure that like everyone is covered or you going to like help with something else to make sure that you are doing the best for yourself and the kids. I feel like it's really helpful. Um, just needing a break or just going to the bathroom just for a few minutes and coming back, that really helps. But definitely like asking the servant or if it's yourself to like let's make sure we're on the same page and make sure that we're both okay to, and again biggest thing to make sure that we're all enjoying coming to Sunday school and making sure that the kids enjoy coming to Sunday school and wanting to come to Sunday school and the church. That's the biggest thing because you don't want to get burned out from just going to Sunday school and like hanging out with the kids and like just teaching them about the Bible and everything. So that's definitely a conversation that you would need to have. um, and like not I was thinking to not say like, oh, like you're doing this, or you like start try to use like, oh, we need to work on this, or we need to see how we can what we need to change so we can all feel like more calm or not it's not as chaotic in the class. So just using we so it's not so they don't feel targeted. I think is a big thing because sometimes they like might not even notice that they're doing like being like annoyed or aggressive. So definitely like not targeting them.
Absolutely, 100% agree. All right, I guess with that, we'll end for today. Thank you all so much
Actually,
for
Michael, sorry.
yeah,
I came across these two questions that just for safety, I feel like we just need to touch base on.
yeah,
If we can maybe just bring them up real quick and, have a point or two about it. Is that okay? Do we have like
yeah.
2 minutes? Okay.
Really
So the
good.
first one, I believe this is an elementary. So we have a kid that runs out of the classroom and no matter what we do, bargaining, chats, threats, bribes, won't step back into the classroom. So elopement, it's a big thing. So once the kiddo is in the classroom, you got to guard that door. So you got to have a servant assigned, like once we know that particular kiddo is in the room, guard that door, and then to make sure, that kiddo does not leave the classroom. Let's say, it just happened so quickly and then they did run out or whatnot. And again, for safety, you got to make sure there's, a servant or two who are like standing nearby. They're not ideally chasing because then again, and with elementary, they're thinking, it's a fun game. And I don't know if this is something that's happening at home. But we got to figure out, or like they have to stay within close distance so that way, the kids don't run any further. But at the same time, there's got to be in a way where it's attracting to them so that way they can come back in the classroom and stay in the classroom. Maybe they just needed, a break and they're not sure how to communicate that. Again, not knowing so much about, these particular kiddos and necessarily, it's hard to tell like, what else is happening. But it just making sure and threats is not going to work. We gotta, again, knowing and figuring out what's really going to work for these kiddos. It's knowing what they like, what motivates them to stay in the classroom, and yeah, to keep them safe in the classroom.
Yes, thank you, Jackie. You said there's another one you wanted to address?
Yeah, so autistic kid, newcomer. Okay, so I mean, we usually say it's a student with autism, suddenly slapped another kid in the class. It was very fast and shocking to everyone. How do we avoid this action happening in the future? Um, Ideally, students with autism, it's hard to sometimes control their actions super quickly like that, but maybe they need a fidget. So, if they have a fidget in their hands or something, then it's harder for them to, at least, and someone kind of keeping an eye on, it would be harder for them to, slap that kid right away. Helping the other students also understand, like different kiddos, like how things work, so that way they have a better understanding of them and more compassionate. That would help. But as far as the student with the autism, again, keeping an eye on them, letting them know, hey, that wasn't okay, and the expectation, and kind hands, and having fidgets and different tools in the hands. Sorry, super quick.
No, well, thank you so much, Jackie. I think definitely a good ones to point on. I just was glad we got to them. All right, perfect. Any other things anyone wants to bring up? Points, quick questions. All right, I believe Glory, you have a poll for us.
Yes, so I saw a few people send sure I sent it. Thumbs up, but I send a link that if you guys want to do more of these meetings, it will be anonymous to let us know if these help or not. And also remember that you can also come up to any of us and ask us these questions face to face if it's something urgent or something that you think someone specific might be able to help, or if you want any of us to come in and see how it goes to, like, I know sometimes it's harder to like phrase a question, and like if you want us to see the behavior itself and like see what the ABC, like what's happening before and all of that, if you are focusing on running the Sunday school class, if you want some like extra eyes, we can also do that if you tell us from before. So I sent the link, so guys, yeah, let us know for sure.
Yes, thank you so much, Glory. And much better probably than my idea of thumbs up. So thank you for catching that, and thank you, Jackie, for catching.
Yes.
Yes, look it up. You guys making up for me. So thank you for that. And thank you all so much for being here. Hope this was helpful, beneficial. I think again, even if just for us to share with each other what are things that we're struggling with, what are things that are going well, things that are not going well, having those conversations so we don't all feel like we don't feel separate or doing things on our own. I think is really nice for us to work together and to share with each other as the one body of Christ, and helping pick each other up like Gloria and Jackie just did for me. I think it's super beneficial and super nice to have each other and to rely on each other in that way. So yeah, like Gloria said, definitely please feel free to reach out to any of us on the team with anything that you need, any questions, any concerns, any comments, anything that you've, again, like Gloria said, extra eyes. Please feel free to do so. And please, 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 please go ahead and vote on that poll. It's anonymous. So if you put no, absolutely no problem whatsoever. My feelings will not get hurt. I don't think anyone's feelings will get hurt. It just, we want to know how to best help each other, support each other, and to serve each other. And so if we want to do more of these, we can do more of these. If we feel that there's a different resource that we can do, or something else that we can do that would be more beneficial, we can definitely do that as well. So please vote on that poll to give us some data on how to best move forward with the service and how to continue to helping each other. So go ahead and do that.
Mikey, this is Uncle Peter. I just wanted to ask you, do you have the AI feature of Zoom on? Is there a meeting summary you can share?
Great question. I believe we took a recording. I think, yeah, we're recording right now. So once we finish the meeting, oh, look at that. Yeah, campaign is on. Very nice. Yeah, so we're recording, so we'll have that, available once the meeting is done, and we can share that with everyone as well. Yeah. Myrna just sent me a text, said that she'll share the recording with everyone. So feel free to, share in your group and in your families if you want, or with whoever you feel would benefit from the conversation that we had today. I know I myself benefit a lot. So thank you all for being here, for participating with that. And to end off, Uncle Peter, would you mind praying for us?
In Father, Son, Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. Thank you, Lord, for this time. Thank you for the fellowship. Thank you for strengthening us and giving us brothers and sisters to help us in our way, help us fulfill the mission you have set for us, and help us walk in your way. Help us resist the devil, and fill us with the Holy Spirit and the fruits of the Holy Spirit. Make this work for your glory and for your kingdom. In Jesus' name, Amen. And with the prayers of our Mother, the Theotokos, and all the martyrs and saints, please, Lord, listen to us when we say, Thankfully, our Father who art in heaven. Okay, thank you so much. Have a good night, everyone.